live right now. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got another great show for you. And along with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Greetings and blessings to all y'all out there. And we thank you again for showing up for another Tuesday evening with Robert and me in our stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A little bit of history and a little bit of myth and tale. And somewhere in between, we figure out the secrets of the universe. Yeah. Anyway, this is, can you believe it? It's episode 42 of Native American Myths and Legends. And you know what? Every time I think, wow, am I going to run out of things to talk about or people to do history on? And you know what? Never. No, I could go 100 weeks. Hundreds.
Well, we've almost done it for a year.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so I guess that's some kind of a milestone that we've made it for 42, issues.
That's absolutely true. I mean, we really haven't missed hardly any of them. I mean, it's been really consecutive. Yeah, that's good. And like every time we always bring the best to everybody out there, and the best that we can do. And I'm getting better all the time. And I remember you coaxed me on my reading skills when I first started. And I've calmed down a lot since then. And I've improved, I think, to some extent. And if I could ever get as good as you as reading a story, I swear you just got and I hear this from a lot of people. You just have that voice, and you know when to stop and pause and leave the listener begging for more.
I've only had 50 years of experience, so literally, because I'll be 70 next month. Mm-hmm. And, and I have been doing this since high school. So,
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So like I said, you just know when to, how to emphasize one word, and then you pause, and then you start in, and that's captivating, and I don't know, but it is very much.
It makes me a storyteller, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, but I think you carry that on from even when you tell stories, about yourself or things that happen or whatever. It is amazing, and you really have a good talent there.
Thank you.
Very good.
Creator blessed me with that, and I'm finding out in my older age how important it is, to be able to tell the stories and to be able to come across and give emphasis where it's necessary and so forth. And so I didn't pull a card yet, but
you probably got a few minutes after I start babbling.
Yeah, well, but I do have a story that I think we missed.
Oh.
And, it's called The Hopi Boy and the Sun, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So okay. It's an interesting story. Mm-hmm. Nothing far-fetched, but in the end, there's a message that I thought, was very intriguing. So I hope it'll mean something to y'all too.
Oh, I'm sure it's intended for somebody, just like when you pull them cards. It's sometimes the person who needs it's going to hear it.
Yep.
And that's usually who it's for, and like Nina had said before, you have to set your intent. And then the card so if you're the listener, you have to think in your head what you are looking for. And if the card is pulled and answers to that calling, then that's your card.
Yep.
So yeah, very, very interesting in that. So we got people pouring in. Susie Q is in the house. Nice to see you, Susie Q. Pa Joe, thank you and good evening. Lucky Smith is in the house, and he knows the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the answer to everything is 42. Delaney Pearl Jones, she says, hey. And let's see, who else is there? I guess that's about it for now. But regardless, big crowd, little crowd, they'll be coming in as sure as I can finish up the show in a good hour or so or more, in which I'm sure that we always seem to go past an hour because we're darn tootin' good. And I gotta laugh at myself. And tonight I am going to talk about Osceola, Seminole Indian chief. And I gotta move my stuff around and pick out a picture here so I can share that for all you people. And then
when you're from the South down here, like I am, and from Florida and South Georgia and Alabama and all, you know, there's a lot of stuff that Osceola and the Seminoles, I mean, Florida State University, they're named the Seminoles, their football team. And so there's a lot of pride for the Seminoles, not just as a football team, but in the native culture as well.
Yes, in the native culture as well, exactly. I'm going to find my start here. And where is, oh, here. This is it, the Cherokee. Oh, yeah, okay. This is where I'm actually going to start. And share screen and share. Okay. Well, the Seminoles were infiltrated, believe it or not. They were infiltrated by a group of Indians called the Red Sticks. And the Red Sticks derived their name from their red ceremonial war clubs. And they were native to conservative factions of the Creeks, predominantly from the upper towns, and rejected the relationship with their culture exchange. The lower towns were fostering them in the United States in around 1813, following a series of skirmishes with the Mississippi Territorial Militia. This is when the states were really getting going. We had already proclaimed our independence, as you know, in 1776, and we were following through as establishing all the 13 colonies and so forth and so on. Well, the Red Sticks were a kind of an offshoot brand of the Creeks. The Creeks didn't like them. Nobody liked these Indians, and they waged war on them. There was a big skirmish with the Red Sticks and the Cherokee, whose traditional lands bordered the Creeks. They joined up with the United States military, and they helped defeat this band of Indians, and the Indians did retreat. And of course, guess who was involved with all of that? Mr. Andrew Jackson in 1813. And of course, he was starting to get his fame and fortune by that time. Okay, let's see if I can jump through some of these. Sorry. So we get back to Osceola here. Oh, there's Andrew Jackson taking his victory lap. If you haven't seen him, there he is. He did become president of the United States, but as on his way of all presidents, they start war and plunders along the way, and the Red Sticks were the first of them. And of course, the Red Sticks retreated to Florida. And why did they retreat to Florida? We're going to go back to here. They retreat. So Osceola, the Indian chief that we're going to talk about. Osceola, the Indian chief that I keep thinking of Pepsi-Cola, you know?
Yeah.
Osceola. Anyway, Osceola here was born a Red Stick. And then his tribe and him moved to Florida. And there they were safe. Why were they safe? Because the Seminole Indians were not very warring like people, and they were friendly. And these Indians and those Indians got along real good. Besides that, Florida at the time was a Spanish colony. So Spain owned Florida, and the Indians could go there, and the United States Army would stop at the border, which was great for them. They then became Seminole Indians, integrated. And as the years went by, as you know, Georgia and the North Carolina, South Carolina, all those states in that area were slave states. Now, the slave states, here, he was a leader, 1804 to 1838. He didn't really live that long. So what happened is the Negroes would leave their slave plantations and run away. Now, in that time, there was no, Underground Railroad. There was no free states to go to, but there was. And they would go to Florida. Once they crossed the line, they were, kind of free in some sense. But they didn't know what to do, so they gave themselves to the Indians. They became the slaves of the Indians because the Indians treated them a lot better and didn't make them work as hard. And so what happened is a lot of these, here, I'll go to this page. Here, you can see by looking, sorry about that. The look on this woman, this Seminole woman, they integrated, and the Negroes and the Indians became, integrated. And they get the women were taken as wives, and the men, vice versa. You know how it goes. But as like anything else, the Northerners did not like that, and they ended up buying or invading Florida, and Florida became a part of the United States. And when that happened, the American Army invaded Florida and began tracking these slaves down. And some were hung and killed. Some were fought back in wars. They built forts, and the Indians and these Negroes, the slaves, would get right involved. Okay, so you got your state of Florida, and as you can see, this is the border, and it says here, former boundary of West Florida, reclaimed in 1795 and 1798. So it was right in those years that parts of like Mississippi here and stuff were being taken over by the United States. Okay, we'll move on. Of course, you can see the soldiers, they were coming into the States. They were hunting down the Indians. The Indians did fight back. Osceola rose to power as one of the chiefs. Where is that one? Sorry about that. I don't have these in order. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So Osceola, he met a woman who was a slave, and he made her his wife. And I'll read from the paper a story. This is one of the stories, and if I can read it good enough, when something governor of Florida, many slaves fled from their Republican oppressors and found shelter. One of them having married an Indian chief. There, whereupon they became the wife of Osceola. She was seized as a slave in 1835 by a pursuer, I guess, who had probably never seen her. Or holding the claim of her mother's former master, Osceola attempted to defend his wife, but was overpowered and was put in irons by General Thompson, the government agent who commanded the kidnapping party. What marveled that an Indian chief, as he looked on his little daughter and throughout, so his stolen wife vowed vengeance on the robbers. Well, yeah, of course, anybody would vow vengeance on somebody that stole your wife and daughter, I tell you. So, as you can see, I think I got one in here on Thompson, the governor. Well, maybe it's back here. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Here, Thompson. He was an Indian removal agent. He went in there. He delegated for the United States military affairs. He was to round up the Native Americans under President Andrew Jackson and negotiate with the Seminoles, and the rights were gone, and they were considered a hostile force. Wow, how thrilling is that? Isn't that how it always was? You get on the reservation or you're a hostile.
Yep.
Yeah, General Thompson's primary role was at Fort King. It was uphold the terms of Kane's Landing Treaty and ensure the removal of the Seminoles from Florida. They wanted to take every single Indian out of Florida and move them to like Oklahoma. Believe it or not. The Thompson's interactions with the Seminoles reported that he was often arrogant and superior in his approach. The behavior resulted in a rapid deterioration of relations with the Seminoles, making a violent situation even more troublesome or unstable too. So this Thompson guy, he was bad. Okay, and this here is a picture of Billy Bowlegs. He was a Seminole Indian too. If you notice, the Seminoles dressed.
Wait. Go back to the name again.
Bill, it was according to what I read and the picture I found. This guy was called Billy Bowlegs.
He was also a pirate.
Maybe he was a pirate. Okay.
No, because down in Panama City area, we used to attend the Billy Bowlegs Festival.
Really?
Yes. Now I haven't heard of it in years, but back in the 60s, when I traveled with the carnival, we were in Panama City area up there, and the carnival was the carnival for the rides for the festival, the Billy Bowlegs Festival.
Wow.
So I didn't know that he was Native American. They didn't say that back then, but they much like in Tampa when they have the Gasparilla parades and so forth in early February, they celebrate the piracy of these guys, you know. So, but anyway, so Billy Bowlegs he was reported for many years as being a pirate. So,
well, maybe he was. He sure dresses like a pirate would, feathers in your hair, big sash, big gun, vibrant colors. I guess he could have been. Very much so. I mean, look at these guys. This one here, I forget what his name was, Boots something or other. I can't remember. But these guys dress very vibrantly. That's one thing they always wore big hats with feathers out of them. Kind of reminds me of some of the Spanish. Maybe that's where they got a lot of that from, Spanish dress. And see, yeah, even Osceola. This is Osceola here painting, and he dressed vibrantly too. I mean, can you imagine these guys showing up at your door? Holy cow! It's like band of gypsies. The women, look at that, red, white, colors, lots of necklaces and stuff. Here's a family of them, very bright, vibrant, colory things, it's really cool. Humble abodes, mostly houses with thatch roofs, kind of open.
Is that a bottle of whiskey?
Yeah, looks like it. Yes. I realized that all these pictures I always show of these old things, you can really tell a lot about these pictures. Like here's a lantern, here's that bottle of whiskey, here's a coffee pot, cups, notice they don't have shoes on, no shoes. Kind of neat.
And the roof is made out of palmettos, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. And here's just a painting, but the same thing, their house, the living quarters, it's on stilts. It's got the palmettos, like you said, covering for the thatched roof. Interesting fire, though. Look at how they got that fire. The logs, the way they are.
Yeah.
Now, that's kind of interesting. I don't know why, but that is kind of interesting. But deer, vibrant colors, whites, reds, oranges, blue colors. The kids, even the kids have that. That's kind of neat. You know, I imagine the loose dress for the mosquitoes and bugs and stuff. Snakes on the ground, you know, things like that.
Yeah, that's why they're up on poles.
Yeah.
Because stuff on the ground can't get them as easy. Now, snakes can crawl up them poles, but not as easy as you just waking up in the morning with a, you know, with a snake wrapped around you.
Yeah. Here's when it says the Indians and Negroes massacring the whites in Florida in January 1836. Yeah. So they raised havoc.
See,
You know,
they massacred them. Yeah. But see, the whites is the ones that moved in to try to take over.
Absolutely. Yeah. Once that
On
became
the Indians and the Negroes, you know, as they massacred the whites. Yeah. Well, the whites kept doing the same thing to them, but anyway.
So this General Thompson, right? He had, you know, up to this time, they were trying to get the Indians out of I got one here. They were trying to get the Indians out of Florida, right? So they were trying to round up all the Indians, and they came to a big treaty meeting, and they said, listen, I think I got a picture of the treaty meeting here. Yeah, they said, listen, you know, we're going to take some of your chiefs. We're going to take you Indians and put you on new land that's even better. You know how that is. Better land. So they took the chiefs, loaded them up, took them to this new land, and said, this is, if you like the land, if the chiefs come back and like the land, will you all go? And they said, yes, yes. If the chiefs agree, we will all go. Well, the chiefs went. The chief said, this land is really good. And then they came back, and then some of the Indians didn't want to go. They said, no, we want to stay. We're not going to go. But, you know, a few of them wanted to, the rest of them didn't. And of course, here's Osceola. He went to the council of this Thompson guy, and he says, no, I'm not going. My tribe isn't going. We'll fight you. This is our land, our stuff, things like that. At that point, somewhere around that point, that's when they came in and they started rounding up the slaves. They put Osceola in chains. This Thompson guy, so I don't know if I got one. Oh, here's a better one of the council. But anyway, Osceola was so mad, he went into a fury fit, saying, you cheated us. This was no good. You're trying to bamboozle us. We don't want to leave our land. You're stealing our things, burning our crops, you know, all these things, you know, we're going to blah, blah, blah. We're going to go to war, crap like that, right? And while he was going in this fit of rage, they captured him there, put him in irons, and put him in jail for a day. I think it was a day. And so he was a smart Indian, and he says, okay, I'll sign your treaty, and I'll get my chiefs to sign the treaty. So so they said, okay, you're great, you know, sign your treaty. But in his mind, all he wanted to do was sign the treaty, get out of there, and then he was going to enact revenge. You know, it was all a ploy to get out of the chains, right? So he gets his guys, they sign the treaty, he signs the treaty, and he doesn't like that Thompson guy. So they sneak around and follow Thompson. Thompson goes to a home of one of his, for a big dinner. They're going to have a big party, all the bigwigs get there, right? Osceola and all his men attack the house, and they killed Thompson, scalped the men. Just a few people got out of the house, and they killed everybody. And the war was on. And these Seminole Indians, then, they fighting mad, and they fought to keep their land. But, of course...
You know what?
What?
That was probably the first time that an Indian leader stood up and said, "Oh yeah, we'll do this," seeing
Yeah.
through the white man's lies,
Mhm.
signed the treaty, and then turned around and
Yeah, so they bamboozle him. Here's a Seminole warrior as you would find him with his tomahawk, his flint rock rifle, and in the background you can see he's burning stuff. He's pissed off burning things, probably burned the fort. So let's see. Anyway, the soldiers were marching in. They went in, and there was a big war. The Indians were fighting. Of course, you notice they used dogs. They even used dogs to hunt these people down. And they're superior numbers, but the Indians hid in the swamps, things like that, but they burned their crops, things. Here's the thing. So you got these soldiers. Hey, of course, you can see the Indians hiding here and behind the trees and stuff like that. Most of the soldiers did not get killed by the Indians. Osceola said to his troops and his people, "We'll kill the men, but leave the women and children." Unfortunately, the troops weren't as nice as Osceola, and they would go into the villages and kill all the women and children while the men were out, fighting or whatever, just like in every story with the Indians. The troops march in and kill all the women and children and old people. Most of the troops that went down there to fight didn't get killed by the Indians. They got killed by malaria, yellow fever, dysentery. They died of diseases, overheating, bug bites, snake bites, things like that. It was treacherous country. As you notice, the soldiers are wearing uniforms, and these uniforms were made out of wool. You're in the swamp, and you're running around in wool coats, carrying a big, heavy gun that weighs possibly 10 pounds, plus bullets and gunpowder in a swamp. And I don't know, Florida there, it rains a lot. And if you're wading in the water like these guys are up to your waist or your knees, you are very uncomfortable. And you can see the Indians did fight hand-to-hand combat, but the troops, they're outfitted with guns and knives and more superior weapons. There you go, more troops trying to fight in the swamp. I don't think that's, look at this guy. He looks like he's surprised by a snake in the grass and he's going to die. And as you know, the Indians used to the best of their advantage the woods. More fighting with the Indians in the swamps, as you can see. Said that about more than half the troops that were stationed at these forts in Florida died from diseases and illnesses. And it was like a death sentence to be put in Florida in the fort down there. Here's Osceola. Finally, Osceola decides to surrender. He was outwitted, not outwitted, but he ended up surrendering. They caught him and they took him. They put him in a fort prison in Florida for a while, in Augusta, Florida, and eventually moved him to North Carolina, where he lived out the rest of his days in imprisonment at a fort prison there, never to see his home state again. Here's more pictures of, looks like they got a big cougar in that one. See the simple thatched roof places, their flintlock guns, their fancy clothes. I love their fancy clothes. Tell you, isn't that nice? I mean, they just vibrant colors, and they wore ostrich feathers. Now, where they got I don't think ostriches lived in Florida, but that's what they wore, ostrich feathers. Okay, some more Seminole Indians. Oh, there he is being put in handcuffs. General Thompson. Seizure of Osceola. He did not like that. That was the beginning of the war. And here you go, more pictures of the battles. You don't get that much. So I'm going to jump to the end of the book here. and read off the little last bit of what happened to Osceola, and we'll go back to this picture. Sorry about the thing. I should have put them in order. Okay, we'll go to this. Okay. So Osceola was he was placed at a big fort in Charleston. Here they were he was kindly treated, but what did the Indians care for what they were not free anymore? Every day Osceola became thinner and thinner. Every day he ate less and less. He had no interest in anything that happened around him. His spirit was broken. He had no wish to live. He was seized with a lower fever, and a physician was sent for him. He gave Osceola medicine, but the chief refused to take it. Then an Indian medicine man came to the bedside of the chief. He did what he could, but Osceola grew worse and worse. Every day he was getting weaker. At last, those above the sick man said, "He cannot live. There is no hope now." About half an hour before he died, Osceola made signs that he wished the other chiefs and the officers in the fort to come to his room. He was too weak to speak. Then he motioned to his wives to bring the clothing that he wore when going to war. When this had been done, the dying man got up out of his bed and dressed himself. Even his war belt and his powder horn were fastened about him, and his knife was placed beside him. But this was not enough for the warrior. He must paint himself as though for battle. As soon as a looking glass and red paint were brought, he painted one half of his face and throat with bright colors of war. His turban, with its 3 long ostrich feathers, were placed upon his head. He was satisfied now, but oh, so very, very tired. He lay down to rest for a few moments. Once more he sat up and silently shook the hands of those who had gathered around him. Then the broken-hearted chief laid down in bed. A moment afterward, with a pleasant smile, Osceola drew his last breath. The war did not end for years after the death of the great chief, but finally the Seminoles were conquered and driven from Florida. The white men could do with the country as they wished. Yet how many lives were lost and what wrong deeds were done before they gained their desires. So there you go. And here's, believe it or not, they made a death bust of him. You know how they make death masks? I don't know why, but this is his death bust. So that's what he actually looked like. Put some hair on his head, and you know, he had a pretty chiseled face, I guess, I'd say. So, yeah. But the war continued even after Osceola died. We're going to go to this here part. Describes the 3 wars, treaties. Oh, yeah. The second war was between 1835, after he died, and 1842. And the third Seminole War, where they really got conquered and there were no more, was 1855 to 1858. And you can see by the pattern, they just kind of drove them down, 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 till they pretty much were at the tip of Florida. They were done for. See, and it says here, many more Seminoles were captured or surrendered. They were relocated to Oklahoma. Those that remained lived deep in the Everglades and the big cypress swamp land that the white settlers did not want. Huh. So who knows? Maybe there's some Seminole Indians out in the swamps out there.
My next door neighbors were pure blood Seminole growing up as a kid.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you've heard me talk about the alligators that they had in the backyard and stuff like that, which were all true, but it was because they were pure bleed Seminole.
Wow.
And they had the right as Seminoles to hunt the land.
Wow. That is cool. That is cool. See, and that's the thing, like I said, they really tried to round them all up and get them out of there and, move them to a whole different state. I mean, Oklahoma is nothing like Florida.
Nope.
Not at all. I mean, just a totally different
There are
kind of.
portions of middle Florida that are hilly and doesn't look like the rest of Florida, as far as swamps and stuff go. But the interior of the state, you know, is like, ooh, 300 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But I mean, you know, for the most part, most of it is swamps, you know, Everglades stuff. I mean, I've been to Florida and yeah, there's trees and a lot of flat land, but there was, you know, I mean, there was a lot of lower type land too, you know. I mean, you know, and it rains there more. It rains and you get storms. It's warm all the time, and there's lots of bugs and snakes no matter where you go. Crocs and gators or whatever they are. It's crazy. Um, let's see. So anyway, we got a lot of new people in here since I started reading. We got Big Al who's making his cards, and hopefully they're done soon. Go check them out. His description is below. We got Elderberry who's growing bags of potatoes or potatoes in bags. Jules Healing Rose is in the house too. Thank you for coming. Let's see. I hope you all enjoyed that. And that's my little bit of this whole thing, because I thought I did a lot of studying on it. Like I said, you know, getting those pictures and doing the run up to it all. It's invigorating because I just I realized that no matter which Indian you were, they wanted to round you up and put you somewhere else in some small area and take over the land. They didn't want the Indian to run free. I realized, and I was telling you this before the show, that, you know, as I grew up, I thought Indians were wild and savage and they wanted to kill everything in their sight. They were untamed, unruly people, like wild cougars, you know. They kill anything and eat anything, you know, raw, and just living like holes in the ground, like, you know, in a teepee or something, just wild. But, you know, after reading all this stuff, I realized that the Indians were very loving people. They were caring and gentle. They loved nature and honored it. They didn't destroy it. They used it and for what they needed. They loved their families and their children, and they, you know, they were a very communal group of people who just like simple things.
And they believed that what the Creator told them in the stories that and legends that we have discussed, that the Creator provided everything that they needed. And so they accepted that. You know, the Creator is going to take care of us. You know, all of our needs are met. And so, and then the white man came along and proved them wrong in that respect. In that if we move you all to one spot, then you're going to have to do like we do. You're going to have to, you know, become more white. But, you know, it's something that folks are starting to get, in that it seems like the ghost dance of the late 1800s was that the native peoples were hoping that, you know, the Great Spirit would drive all the white people off the land, and so that the land would revert back to the native peoples, back to the way the land used to be, free, without fences and the whole 9 yards. So, but in a way, the ghost dance is still going on, in that, you know, white man's beginning to pay attention, not everybody, but they're starting to pay attention that if you overuse the land, you know, there are consequences. And if you kill everything off, and if you do these things, and, you know, of course, there's still a lot of stupid white people that, you know, oh, it's the land, because the Bible says that we as Christians have dominion over the land and we can do anything we want. And to the Native Americans, it was like, no, you don't. We're caretakers. We're supposed to live with the land, not dominion over the land or Mother Nature. So that basic philosophy of the white Christian predominantly white Christian, is that to dominate over everything, to dominate over the Indians, to dominate over the land, to do whatever they damn well pleased. And, the heck with the rest of humanity or whatever, So, but anyway, this idea of being the dominant one ain't working.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The Indians could have lived here forever and been at peace and harmony, and well, warring among themselves like they do, but you know what I mean. They would have lived with the land and nature, and the trees would have been big, and the critters would have been everywhere. And then we came in, and then we enlisted the worst part is we enlisted the Indians to kill each other. Like I was reading that story about the Red Sticks and the Cherokee and the Creek. So the Creek and the Cherokee hated the Red Sticks, so they joined the United States military troops to wipe them out. And so they were, I mean, come on. So you're wiping out your enemy, but really, they're you. And then and what happened? The Cherokee wipes out the Red Sticks, and then the army comes around, gathers up the Cherokee, and marches them to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. Come on, really? I mean, you're playing with the devil, and he's gonna fight you.
And you know what? It'd be one thing if it took centuries, but some of this stuff happened within 30 years.
Yeah, well, that's when it all started,
I mean, but you'd have thunk that the Indians would have paid more attention. I think that when we moved further west, the Indians had seen what happened to their brothers, and that they got moved to Oklahoma and became renegades in and of themselves. Mm-hmm. If you think that every one of those Cherokee or Creek or Seminoles that were moved to Norman, Oklahoma, if you think they stayed on the res, no, they didn't. There were those warriors who left and joined the Apache and because they didn't want to live it the white man's way.
Well, that was with
that's a story that ain't told much, but
Well, that was with who was it? The Comanche guy that I've talked about. Oh gosh, I can't think of his name now. The Comanche leader.
Right.
Anyway, he went to the reservation, and he realized it wasn't for him, and he went back to his native lands, and then he went back to the reservation, and he went back to his native lands, and then what happened was the white man pretty much invaded his land, and now it was battle between either the white man, the big rancher with all his cows, or the Indian.
Was it Geronimo?
No, the Comanche guy. I can't remember his name. Gosh, darn. I can't think of his name.
That's all right.
I'll think of it sooner or later. No, I got it wrote down somewhere.
But to the point, though, I think these guys did learn because it happened within their lifetime. It wasn't centuries. It had happened in less than 20 or 30 years. I mean, the expansion of the United States after the War of 1812, where Andrew Jackson enlisted the help of the Indians to fight off the British in the town of New Orleans. We fired our guns,
Yep, that's exactly it. We enlisted them to fight, and then we turned on them.
Oh, big time.
I mean, it almost sounds like stuff that's happening today with like when we went to Afghanistan, and we had all those people helping us there and stuff like that, and then it was like, well, it's time to leave. Goodbye. and well, too bad you can't make it to the plane, but too bad. It's so sad. But yeah, anyway. Cherokee. Cochise, no, no. Coeur d'Alene. Oh man, I know I did the gosh darn. I had all these ones and I put them somewhere. Oh well. I know I did. I can't remember that guy's name.
That's all right.
Yeah, I should just Google it.
But to the point though, many of the warriors, just skipped town. When they got to Oklahoma and the Creek and the Cherokee, they knew they couldn't go home. So why not go west?
Yeah, and join another tribe, and then that's exactly it. Here's the game. That's right. Quantum Parker, that's the guy. Remember him, Quantum Parker? That was the guy, Quantum Parker. I get the thing. But anyway, yeah, he was the one. Oh, Pajo says the Wyandotte Indians lived in the redwoods. They said their trees are their protectors. And Elderberry says they promoted General Jackson to general so he could take care of the red sticks. Yes, they did that. Red Stick faction of the Creek. They annihilated the Creek village. They headed back to New Orleans to face the British. Interesting. And Big Al says we learned guerrilla warfare from the Seminole Indians' 10-year campaign. They were expert warriors in the field. Yes, I imagine they were. And like I said once before, that all Indians are like independent hitmen working together in some kind of crazy way.
Well, it was like the Vietnam War. They didn't learn much about camouflage and everything back in the day, because they stuck with military and dressed them all the same color and lined them up in lines and did all this stuff. Where the Viet Cong they were part of the main group, but they were independent. So they'd go hide in the jungle, but they knew they were fighting. Their brother was not far away, over to your left, and over there to the right, 100 yards down, was another one of your buddies somewhere over there hiding, So, and so the native folk, especially in Florida and down here in the South, living in a swamp the way I do, if you're not used to swamp conditions, it's going to be difficult for you to move around. But if you've lived in that environment all your life and you've hunted it and you know where the trails are and you know the secrets, you can tell before you get there, there's a big bramble bush up ahead and you need to skirt around to your right to avoid it. I mean, there's just things that you can see in the swamp because you've been there before. But if you've never been in that kind of environment, like one of the things that happened with the troops is they got trench foot. They wore boots that stayed wet all the time. And the guys in Vietnam, I mean, I've got one foot where trench foot comes back. It's worse than any kind of athlete's feet. And it'll just come back when the conditions are right. And I've been fighting my right foot for years because I got trench foot one year from being in my own swamp where it was wet all the time. And I wore shoes that I didn't change often and my feet stayed wet. And so these guys that had to wear boots as part of their regulation, knee deep in water, their boots were full of water all the time. I can just imagine their feet must have been horrible condition, where the Seminoles were barefoot.
Yeah. Or they probably wore sandals of some sort, maybe, that, their feet could stay dry, I mean, you see those pictures of them and it looks like they're just wearing like a sock with a sandal, shoe.
Right. They needed something that would dry out quick and they knew it.
Yeah.
Because they learned from their environment. You can't wear boots or whatever all the time, And I'm barefoot most of the time now that I'm retired. But even I know to wear some kind of shoes when I go back in the back, you know. But to the point though, there are other things too that you know, that help kill the soldiers is where I was kind of sort of headed with it.
Yeah, the gators and the snakes and the, you know, malaria, yellow fever, dysentery, drinking the water. I mean, people don't realize, you know, that if the world went to shit, that so many people are going to die from dysentery because they're going to go out. They're used to drinking clean water that's filtered or from the city water that's purified or some way got chemicals in it, and they're going to go out and they're going to drink some, be thirsty, say, hey, there's a river right down there, and you're going to, I got a bucket of water, and they're not going to boil it. They're going to just drink it and say, well, it was clean. I talked to one of my buddies and said, he was talking about, well, if we were in the mountains, I'd just drink out of the stream. No, you wouldn't, because what if an animal pissed up the road? Well, you know, by the time it gets to me, it'll be fine. You only need a little bit of that, and then you're going to get sick.
Right. And well, here's the thing: the native peoples were immune to it in that they had drank the water since they were born. So the white folk, you know, that went out there and tried to drink that same water, you know, it would, like, you know, we've always heard the joke about, you know, don't drink the water when you're in Mexico, you know. Mexicans drink it all the time, but white people, you go down there, you're going to get Montezuma's revenge, you know. And I don't know if those choice of words still hold true today, but when I was growing up, everybody knew what Montezuma's revenge was, and not, you know, don't drink the water in Mexico. I mean, in the 60s, we knew what that meant, you know, but the feces of any critter upstream will get this tiny little larva in the water. And if you get that, I want to say it's LaGuardia or something like that, but don't count me on the name, but it will give you dysentery. It will make you so sick you wish you were dead.
Yeah, but I mean, nowadays you could go to the doctor and get some, you know, penicillin or something, some kind of antibiotic, or maybe some kind of thing that would help you through it and you wouldn't die. But if there's no doctor to go to, don't drink the water.
Yeah.
Boil it first, you know, put it through a filter, do something, but don't lean down to a creek and just drink the water, because you're taking your life in your hands right there. You know, just like you said, when you do the boots, or, you know, you're out in the swamp, or it doesn't matter where you're at, you know, you're going to be in the water. You need to dry your feet off. You need to you know, take care of yourself and know these precautions, because some people knew that and they survived, and other people didn't, and that separates people, you know.
Right. Up in the north, see, you know, when it snows all the time and it was cold, to get frostbite was obvious. But to be down in the swamps and get trench foot was not obvious. Yeah. Until you got it, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. The people in the swamp knew all about trench foot, but the people up north knew all about frostbite. You know, I'm from the north. I know all about frostbite. I've never gotten frostbite because, you know, I take care of myself. I put gloves on. I stay warm. If I get cold, I try to do whatever I can to warm up, you know, not let my circulation go bad.
But because you live in the environment, though, you understand that although you've never had frostbite, you can see how easily you can get it.
Yeah, but I know the signs to look for. Not
exactly. So, you know, the soldiers that were sent to the swamps, God bless them, you know, they had no idea what was coming.
Oh, yeah, they're from the north. They get down and set to Florida, go, wow, it's wonderful, it's warm, and now I'm going to die of malaria because I got bit by a mosquito.
Oh, and they didn't mention ticks, but, you know, I can only imagine what it was like back in the day, you know, with no bug spray or nothing.
Yeah.
I went down in the woods just the other day, and the mosquitoes are really bad this time of year back there.
Yeah, what would you do back in the day when there's no,
you know, I had swarms of mosquitoes that had found me, And I was like, nah, I am not prepared for this today. No, no, no.
Oh, I totally agree. And for Pod Joe, he must live in the land of California area. I'm not sure, but he was talking about a lot about California Indians, the why nots and stuff. I got this new book, and it's about California Indians. So I will be reading up on that just to make your day. Desert Rose is in the house. She says, hello, Robert and David. Well, thank you for coming, Desert.
Howdy back at you.
Okay, what do you got for us tonight? I'm all excited.
All right, get your book out.
All righty, I am doing it.
And catch up with me on page 140. That's a 5. I got to get find another pair of glasses that will fit on my head for the duration. All of my dollar glasses are breaking, and I won't go by the dollar store. It's not in my normal where do I drive and go.
What prescription do you wear?
It's called the dollar store, you know, the cheap reading glasses.
I know, but I mean, how bad are they? 250s, 175s?
Well, that's why I have 5 pair of them, because they're some of them are real low and some of them are real high. And so if the print's big enough, I learned years ago that the higher magnification that you use, the weaker your eyes will get. Honestly, that's like optometrist told me that. He said, so you only want as much as you need so that you're able to read clearly. But if your eyes get adjusted to that, then they become weak. So I've got different types and different focal lengths, you know, but if I need to look close up, I use them for close up work. And then I go back to just general, I just need to see things more clear. So I went from having to use like a 200 to 225 all the time to I'm down to a pair of 150s. So when I need the stronger, I grab them. But anyway, so in all my years where my eyes were getting worse, when I took the advice of only use what you need, you know, so 125 or 150 work, I use them. And my eyes are still strong after all these years. Some print I can still read without any glasses. I got to squint, but you know.
That's all right. That's the way it works. That's good.
We're on page 145.
The Hopi Boy in the Sun?
Yep.
All right. I have gotten it. I am on top of it. There we go. Hopi Boy in the Sun.
All right. Let me get a little liquid and we'll start. I read through this story before earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there are places that as I read it, I go, oh, I've read this before. Well, I read through the whole story and I did not have that. Mm-hmm. So we've read stories on either side of this one, but not this one.
No, I don't think we did, because remember, I take a lot of these stories and I've made them into shorts. And right. When you start reading one, I go, boy, that one sounds, I think I made one. You know, because once I make one of those, I tend to read it or listen to it about 5 or 6 times in order to get it on the video correctly, you know. So it's like, I really know that story. Oh yeah. Plus I save them all then, and then I got them in my shorts and I play them every now and then too, just because they're good stories. What?
Oh, that's better. All right, let me get this combination right here. Take 2. The Hopi Boy and the Sun. Where cultures overlap, as in areas of the Southwest, with its mixture of Hispanic, Pueblo, and nomadic traditions, legends are often modified and reshaped in the retelling. This story, related in 1920 by a Zuni elder who may have been part Hispanic, gives a curious twist to Hopi tales of the sun. Besides the traditional Hopi elements, such as the trail of sacred cornmeal and the sun's fox skin, it embodies the fear and antagonism felt by the Pueblo farmers toward the marauding nomadic tribes. At the same time, it is full of things unknown to the Pueblos before the coming of the Spaniards, such as peaches, silver bracelets, and the ocean itself. A poor Hopi boy lived with his mother's mother. The people treated him with contempt, and they threw ashes and sweeping into his grandmother's house, and the two were very unhappy. One day he asked his grandmother who his father was. "My poor boy, I don't know," she replied. "I must find him," the boy said. "We can't stay in this place. The people treat me too badly. Grandchild, you must go and see the sun. He knows who your father is." On the following morning, the boy made a prayer stick and went out. Many young men were sitting on the roof of the kiva, the underground ceremonial chamber. They sneered when they saw him going by, though one of them remarked, "Better not make fun of him. I believe the poor little boy has supernatural power." The boy took some sacred meal made of pounded turquoise, coral, shell, and cornmeal, and threw it upward. It formed a trail leading into the sky, and he climbed it until the trail gave out. He threw more of the sacred meal upward, and a new trail formed. After he had done this 12 times, he came to the sun. But the sun was too hot to approach, so the boy put new prayer sticks into the hair at the back of his head, and the shadow of their plumes protected him from the heat. "Who is my father?" he asked the sun. "All children conceived in the daytime belong to me," the sun replied. "But as for you, who knows? You are young and have much to learn." The boy gave the sun a prayer stick and, falling down from the sky, landed back in his village. On the following day, he left home and went westward, hoping to begin learning. When he came to the place where Holbrook, Arizona now stands, he saw a cottonwood tree and chopped it down. He cut a length of the tree to his own height, hollowed it out, and made a cover for each end. Then he put in some sweet cornmeal and prayer sticks and decided he was ready to go traveling. Climbing into the box, he closed the door and rolled himself into the river. The box drifted for 4 days and 4 nights until finally he felt it strike the shore at a place where 2 rivers joined. He took the plug out of a peephole he had made and saw morning light. But when he tried to get out, he couldn't open the door, no matter how hard he pushed. He thought he would have to die inside. In the middle of the afternoon, a rattlesnake girl came down to the river. When she discovered the box, she took off her mask and looked into the peephole. "What are you doing in there?" she asked the boy. "Open the door, I can't get out," he said. The girl asked, "How can I open it?" "Take a stone and break it." So the girl broke the door, and when the Hopi boy came out, she took him to her house. Inside, he saw many people, young and old men and women, and they were all rattlesnakes. "Where are you going?" they asked him. "I want to find my father," the boy replied. The girl said, "You can't go alone. I'll go with you." She made a small tent of rattlesnake skins and carried it to the river. They crawled into the tent and floated for 4 days and 4 nights. Finally, they reached the ocean, and there they saw a meteor fall into the sea on its way to the house of the sun. They asked the meteor to take them along. In this manner, they reached the sun's house, where they found an old woman working on turquoise, coral, and white shell. She was the moon, the mother of the sun. "Where is my father?" the boy asked. "He's gone out," the moon replied, "but he will be home soon." The sun arrived in the evening, and the old woman gave him venison and wafer bread. After he had eaten, he asked the boy, "What do you want here?" The boy replied, "I want to know my father." "I think you are my son, and when I go into the other world, you shall accompany me," the sun said this time. And early the next morning, he said, "Let's go." He opened a door in the ground, and they went out. Seating himself on a stool of crystal, the sun took a fox skin and held it up. Daylight appeared. After a while, he put the fox skin down and held up the tail feathers of a macaw, and the yellow rays of sunrise streamed out. When at last he let them down, he said to the boy, "Now let's go." The sun made the boy sit behind him on the stool, and they went out into another world. After traveling for some time, they saw people with long ears. Lakoti Inawik. They used their ears as blankets to cover themselves when they slept. The sun remarked, "If bluebird droppings fall onto those people, they die." "How is that possible?" the boy said. "How can people be killed that way? Let me kill the birds." The sun said, "Go ahead, I'll wait." The boy jumped down, took a small cedar stick, and killed the bluebirds. Then he roasted them over a fire and ate them. The people shouted, "Look at this boy, he's eating Navajos." "No," said the boy, "these aren't Navajos, they're birds." Then he went back to the sun, and they traveled on. About noon, they came to another town. The sun said, "Look, the Apache are coming to make war on the people." The boy saw a whirlwind moving along. When wheat straw was blown against the legs of the people, they fell dead. "How can people be killed by wood? Let me go down and tear it up." The sun said, "I'll wait." The boy jumped down, gathered the wheat straw, and tore it up. The people said, "Look at this boy, how he kills the Apache." "These aren't Apache," the boy replied. "They're wheat straws." Then he went back to the sun. They came to another town where the Hopi boy saw people with very long hair reaching down to their ankles. They had a large pot with onions tied to its handles. Inside, it thin mush was cooking and boiling over. And when it hit a person, he died. The sun said, "Look at the Jacaras Apache. How'd they kill people? No, said the boy, that's not the Jacara Apache. It's mush. I'll go down and eat it. The son said, I'll wait. Then the boy jumped down, dipped the mush out of the pot, took the onions from the bun handles, and ate the mush with the onions. The people said, look at how this boy eats the brains, hands, and feet of the Jacara Apache. The boy said, this isn't Jacara Apache, it's corn mush. Come and eat with me. No, they said, we're not cannibals. We don't eat Apache warriors. Then the boy went back to the son, and they traveled on. Finally, they came to the house of the son in the east. There, the son's sister gave them venison stew for supper. After they had eaten, the son said to his sister, wash my son's head. The son's sister took a large dish, put water and yucca suds into it, and washed the boy's head and body. Then she gave him new clothing, the same kind that the son was wearing. Buckskin trousers, blue moccasins, blue bands of yarn to tie under the knees, a white sash, and a belt of foxskin, turquoise and shell earrings, a white shirt, silver arm rings, bead bracelets, and a bead necklace. She put macaw feathers in his hair and a micha, a sacred blanket, over his shoulder, and gave him a quiver of mountain lion skin. Then the son told him, go ahead, I'm going to follow you. The boy opened the door in the ground and went out. He sat on the crystal stool, took the foxskin, and held it up to create the dawn. Then he put it down and raised the macaw feathers, holding them up with the palms of his hands stretched forward until the yellow rays of sunrise appeared. After that, he dropped his hands and went on into the upper world. As he did, the people of Laguna, Isleta, and other eastern pueblos looked eastward and sprinkled sacred meal. The son behind him said, look at the trails of life of the people. Some are short, others are long. Look at this one. He is near the end of his trail. He's going to die soon. The boy saw an Apache coming, and in a short time, the Apache had killed that man whose trail had been so short. The Hopi boy said to the son, let me go and help the people. I'll wait, the son replied. The boy jumped down into the territory where the Laguna people were fighting the Apache. He told the people to wet their arrow points with saliva and hold them up to the sun, for this would help them in battle. The boy himself killed 10 Apaches. He and his father crossed the land of his own people, the Hopi, and then came to the Mexican territory. A Mexican was playing with his wife when the son saw them. He threw the Mexican aside and cohabitated with the woman. I don't need a wife, he told his son, because all the women on earth belong to me. If a couple cohabitates during the daytime, I interfere as I just did. So I'm the father of all children conceived in the daytime. In the evening, the son entered his house in the west. By then, the boy wanted to go back to his own people. So the son's mother made a trail of sacred flower, and the boy and the rattlesnake woman went back eastward over it. At noon, they came to the rattlesnake's home. The rattlesnake woman said, I want to see my father and mother. After that, let's go on. They entered the house, and she told her relatives that the Hopi boy was her husband. Then they resumed their journey. That evening, they arrived in the Hopi village. The boy made straight for his grandmother's house, but an old chief said, "Look at the handsome man going into that poor home." He invited the boy into his own house, but the boy replied, "No, I'm going here." The war chief said, "We don't want you in that dirty house." "The house is mine," the boy replied. "So tell your people to clean it up. When all of you treated me badly, I went up to the sun and he helped me." On the following evening, the boy appeared before a village council and told all that had happened to him. "You must teach the people how to act rightly. The sun says that you should forbid all bad actions." The people accepted his words, and everyone worked hard at cleaning his house. In return, the boy gave peaches, melons, and wafer bread to the poor. Every evening after sunset, the women would come with their dishes, and he would offer them venison stew and peaches. He said to the chief, "I teach the people the right way to live. Even if you are my enemy, I must show you how to behave well." Twin children, a boy and a girl, were born to his wife. They had the shape of rattlesnakes, but they were also human. Based on a legend reported by Franz Boas in 1922.
Wow, that was pretty good. I like that. You know, sometimes these longer ones are pretty darn interesting. I can tell you. You know, going up, sprinkling that trail, and then walking up into the sun. Where's my father? Where's my father? You know?
Yeah, and the fact that, the son said, anytime there are people cohabitating together during the daytime, I have the right to interfere.
And that's something, that kind of makes sense because most people cohabitate at night. At least, most of the time. Doesn't it seem like that? I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong, but I think that tends to happen. Interesting. Let's see. And then they brought him peaches. Peaches. I didn't realize peaches. I thought peaches were like from Georgia, but apparently peaches grow all over the place. Don't you think?
Yeah, when I was in California and in the middle section, there were peaches and pecan trees. I was surprised. My computer is acting really strange. You can still see and hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
I can't see you, but I can hear you. So
okay. Yeah, we got some more people that showed up. We got Scotty Boy. He's probably cracking a beer. He says, "I love these stories. They have substance to them." And Max G is in the house. Off the hook. He says that was awesome. And let's see.
For that story, at the very end, I don't care who you are, what tribe you're from, you need to learn how to act rightly. You need to, enemy or not, you need to learn how to act right. I mean,
that is so true. But back to the peaches thing before you get going, is I was reading these stories about Kit Carson lately, and he went there to Arizona to get rid of the Navajo. That was his big thing. And he went there to get rid of the Navajo. And I forget what valley he came to. And it was a beautiful valley. They had corn and crops and peach groves, peach tree groves. And him and his soldiers went there, cut down all the trees and burned them, burned the crops, their apple trees, their big, all the stuff they had. They had every kind of fruit there. And he cut it all down, burned it all until they had nothing. And I thought, wow, and that's when I realized that there was peaches all over the place. And so back to what you're saying. What I don't understand is at the end of the story, he says, and I made them clean my house. They came and cleaned my house. Is there a double meaning to that, or what? Why did they clean his house?
In the very beginning, they were poor, and he didn't know who his father was. So, and his grandmother, they would throw ashes into her and scraps into their house.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So they made it dirty, and so, but who is his father? He didn't ask who his mother was. But so there's more to this story so they deemed the boy and the grandmother unclean for some reason. And so they threw their scraps and stuff into the grandmother's teepee to we don't like you. Maybe if we keep doing this, you'll leave, And so the boy left, but when he came back, the son had dressed him in all these fine clothes. So the war chief said, "Come into my teepee," and he was like, "Hell no, I'm going to the house."
Yeah. He looked too fancy to be going to the poor man's house.
Right, exactly.
I guess that's like the story of the ugly duckling. You're too ugly to hang out with us, and then one day you're the swan, and it's like, oh, hey, you want to hang out with us? Yeah, it's like kind of the same thing, huh? Ugly duckling story.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of the the son that comes home after so many years, blah blah blah, but in that, here was this little boy that was ugly and dirty and was not invited into anyone's home. And was shunned by the tribe, comes back in all these fine clothing and raiment and everything, and now you're a somebody, So, but his command from the son was like, you need to go clean up the house. And I think it was that it wasn't just his grandmother's house, but it was that they cleaned up their own house. In other words, they looked at themselves. Were they acting correctly? Because they had thrown the ashes into his grandmother's house for so long, you see. So they needed to clean their own house spiritually.
That is a good one. I got a good one. Lucky Smith. He always has the answers. And I still don't believe it. I don't believe it. He says peaches are from China. Peaches were introduced to North America by the Spanish monks around St. Augustine, Florida in the mid-1500s. By 1607, they were widespread around Jamestown, Virginia. So by the mid-1800s, the Navajo had them already. Wow. That I'm gonna have to look that up and double check, but I believe ya, but just seems weird. Who knows? China, huh? China. So what do you got? Did you pull a card?
I'm in the process of doing it now.
All righty. What are the spirits telling you tonight?
They're telling me it's upside down.
Fair enough.
So interesting that the bat card showed up.
The bat.
Bat. And also the eagle, and both of them are upside down. And we're going to find out what this means here in just a minute, as soon as I get the book out. There are 44 totems in this book.
Mhm.
And bat is the number 42 and eagle's number 1. So there's literally at both ends of the scale as far as the book is concerned.
Uh-huh.
So bat is rebirth. Sacred bat flew to me from the darkness of the cave. Womb-like reflections, answers it gave. Birth, death, and rebirth. Cycles of the whole, never ending, just eclipsed. The journey of the soul. Steeped in the mystery of the Mesoamerican tribal ritual is the legend of the bat. Akin to the ancient Buddhist belief in reincarnation in Central America, that is the symbol of rebirth. The bat has for centuries been a treasured medicine of the Aztec, the Toltec, the Tolkien, and the Mayan peoples. That embraces the idea of shamanistic death. The ritual death of the healer is steeped in secrets and highly involved initiation rites. Shaman death is the symbolic death of the symbolic death of the initiative to the old ways of life and personal identity. The initiation that brings the right to heal and to be called shaman is necessarily preceded by ritual death. Most of these rituals are brutally hard on the body, the mind, and the spirit. And in light of today's standards, it can be very difficult to find a person who can take the abuse and come through it with their balance intact. The basic idea of ancient initiation was to break down all the former notions of self that were held by the shaman to be. This could entail brutal tests of physical strength and psychic ability, and having every emotional button pushed hard. This ritual is very similar to the rite of fear practiced by natives of Turtle Island. In this ritual, the shaman to be is sent to a certain location to dig his or her own grave and spend the night in the womb of Mother Earth totally alone, with the mouth of the grave covered by a blanket. Darkness and the sounds of animals prowling quickly confront the initiate with his or her own fears. If the bat has appeared in your cards today, it symbolizes the need for a ritualistic death of some way of life that no longer suits your new growth pattern. Now it's upside down, so this is the contrary. If bat is still hanging upside down in the cave and immersed in darkness, you have met its contrary medicine. This position leads to stagnation of the spirit and a refusal to acknowledge your true destiny, which is always to use the talents you have to their fullest. Is there some areas of your life that has been dammed up and therefore stopped your desire to create? If so, look at surrendering to the death of that stagnation. That can also imply that in the reversal of your natural cycle of rebirth, you are trying to go at life in a backwards mode. This is a breech birth in a sense. This type of occluded understanding of how to go about freeing yourself can lead to a stillbirth if you've struggled too long in the birth canal. This final outcome can be death of the body. Some people think themselves into a corner with obstacles that are illusionary. By the time they decide what to do, the opportunities are gone and old age is upon them. All of their dreams have passed them by. Reverse bat says to use your mind, courage, and strength to ensure an easy labor and a quick delivery into your new state of understanding and growth. Surrendering to the new life you have created from thought and desire, and bravely greet that dawn. If you are concerned with today and tomorrow, but not much further, you may forget to see further down the road. That's why the eagle. Tribal teachings say that you are responsible for future generations because you are the ancestors of the future. Whatever you do today will affect the next 7 generations. Every decision, every thought is to create a state of stagnation or rebirth for those that follow you on the good red road. If you are blocking yourself, you may be blocking the generations to come. Bat flies at night, and in the night are born your dreams. These are the dreams that build future civilizations, so nourish them well. Tribal teachings say that you are responsible for future generations because you are the ancestors of the future. We should all keep that in mind. Now, so the contrary bat is that you're being stagnant. You're still hiding in the dark when you ought to be out. And for whatever reason, but I can see where this fits with eagle. Oh man. If you are, this is bat. If you are concerned with today and tomorrow, but not much further, you may forget to see further down the road. Now, eagle is spirit. Eagle fly high, touch the great spirit. Share your medicine and touch me, honor me, so that I may know you too. Eagle medicine is the power of the great spirit, the connection to the divine. It is the ability to live in the realm of spirit and yet remain connected and balanced with the realm of earth. Eagle soars and is quick to observe expansiveness within the overall pattern of life. From the heights of the cloud, eagle is close to the heavens where the great spirit dwells. But also from the heavens, eagle is able to see off in the distance. So where bat is telling you, you may forget to see further down the road. Eagle, with being able to soar high to great spirit, is able to see beyond. So there is a connection between these two. From the heights of the cloud, eagle is close to the heavens where the great spirit dwells. The feathers of eagle are considered to be the most sacred of healing tools. They've been used for centuries by shamans to cleanse the auras of patients coming to them for healing. Eagle represents a state of grace achieved through hard work, understanding, and a completion of the test of initiation, which results in the taking of one's own personal power. So also with that, there was initiation, right? The initiation of a shaman's death. Mm-hmm. So these two are absolutely, I would have thought, bat and eagle. It is only through the trial of experience, the lows in life, as well as the highs, and through the trial of trusting one's connection to the Great Spirit, that the right to use the essence of eagle medicine is earned. If you pulled this symbol, eagle is reminding you to take heart and gather your courage, for the universe is presenting you with an opportunity to soar above the mundane levels of your life. Now, eagle upside down. If you pulled eagle in the reverse, you have forgotten your power and your connectedness to the Great Spirit. You may have failed to recognize the light that is always available for those who seek illumination. Heal your broken rings with love, loving yourself as you are, loved by the Great Spirit, is the lesson which the contrary eagle brings. Now, y'all pay attention. Loving yourself as you are loved by the Great Spirit is the lesson which the contrary eagle brings. Great Spirit loves you. Remember that. And you're loved. And so you may hate things about you, and okay, you change them, but regardless of what it is, you are still loved by the Creator. On some level, Eagle is telling you to seek higher ground on which to build your nest. The nest is the home of the heart and cannot remain in a swamp. If your nest is in a swamp, this may be connected to your belief that your wings are clipped by an impossibility in your present status. A lot of people are feeling that their wings are clipped these days. Eagle's nest is high in the mountains where the air is clean and the movement is free. It may be your time for a vision quest so that you can commune with the Great Spirit. Fasting and praying will surely bring an answer. Seek lofty ideals and the illumination will be close at hand. Now, so with the bat is saying that there is a real, a ritualistic death, a rebirth. So the two cards, you know,
Yeah.
If Eagle has majestically soared into your cards, you are being put on notice to reconnect with the elements of air. Air is the mental plane, and in this instance, it is of the higher mind. Wisdom comes in many strange and curious forms and is always related to the creative force of the Great Spirit. So the bat is rebirth. And, you know, and the eagle is the spirit. Rebirth of the spirit. Is it that simple?
Sometimes, you know, I mean, that I was just discussing that with somebody today. You know, you got to love yourself, and then you can love others. And, you know, like you said, the Great Spirit loves us, but we got to love ourselves in order to, and we got to realize it, don't we?
Yeah, there are some folks who are like, demand it. Well, Creator, you know, I'm supposed to get love because, you know, Spirit says so, but you may be so obstinate in your own person or being that you're chasing it away.
Absolutely.
Because there are people who demand things, and it's like, well, I'm you know, well, I'm an American and I demand my rights, and yeah, let's back that bus up a little bit. But to the point, though, there are folks who, you know, it's my right, I should have it, and therefore, yeah, but, you know, you're demanding that you get it versus just accepting that it's there.
Yeah, exactly. They don't, you can't, yeah, you got to accept things. Just like if somebody gives you something, you know, you can
well, it's like we were talking about with the white man coming over here. Native folks, they just knew that Creator and the Great Spirit had given them everything they needed. And so the white man didn't think that way and doesn't think that way. So, you know, if spiritually speaking, there are folks who demand that there's something else to it when, you know, they're not paying attention to what's already there.
Yeah.
You know, accept what the Creator's already given you. Yeah, but well, there's got to be more.
And then they want more. It's like, oh, you know, when I die and I go to heaven, I'm going to get everything then. I think that's a pipe dream.
Yep.
You know, because what did you do to deserve more? You know, and if you couldn't handle more here, how are you going to handle more there? It's like when I first came out west here and I got a good job, and back in 2012 and 2013, everybody out here was getting jobs and they were making money hand over fist because they were, you know, they came from poor ass towns where they were making $10 an hour, and they came out here and all of a sudden they got themselves a job that was paying $20 an hour. They doubled their income overnight. And not only that, they could work, you know, 40 or 50 hours of overtime because they didn't have anybody to work. So you could work day and night. You could work 2 jobs or 1 job all the time, day and night, get 8 hours of sleep and go back to work for 16 more. That's the way it was. And these people made so much money. And you know what? For the longest time, everybody would, I mean, there were so many Raptors, you know, Ford Raptors running around here. And there was, everybody had a big brand new dually. And all of a sudden there was people still running around. They got Corvettes, and they had, you know, they're buying these big fancy houses and stuff. And they were buying the most lavish everything because they could. Dodge Chargers, Hellcats, you know, Vipers. I mean, this is a podunk little town, and yet I've seen more Vipers in this little town than I do if I went to Chicago. Go figure.
Yeah.
And so these people go crazy with that, but then guess what? Are they really happy? You know, and then they lose their job and they lose their vehicle and they got nothing. They end up with less than they had when they started out because they just didn't know how to handle the fun, you know, the money, and because they never had it, and they splurge, and then they were, if they did keep all that stuff, they were working to pay the payments because they couldn't afford a truck for $80,000 on a $10 an hour thing. So now they got, you know, 20, 30, whatever, and they're paying these huge payments, and so now they're just as broke as they were, but they got a nice big truck. So if you can't handle, you know, maybe it's better to live under your means than it is to live lavishly above your means, you know. So if you're making $60,000 a year and you could save $20,000, but if you were making $300,000 a year and you couldn't imagine to save 1,000, who's the richer guy? You know what I'm saying? So there you go. That's my thoughts on that. Don't live beyond your means to be happy. Sometimes being poor is the happiest times of my life. I did more things and had more fun just being happy with people and being poor. Living on my means.
Now that I'm retired, I have looked at life differently, and I still do. But, you know, where sitting by the river when I worked all the time was like, oh man, relaxing, and oh my God, I'm taking an hour or two to sit by the river. Oh man, and you almost feel guilty because you're not doing something. Well, now that I'm retired and I have time to sit by the river all the time if I want to, it's a different kind of sitting by the river. And how do you, it's the same river, it's, you know, what's the difference? Well, the river is sitting by the river, and that's sitting by at the park or whatever, sitting on the back porch, whatever that means. It's that time for relaxation. Well, now that I'm retired and I don't have a job, sitting by the river, almost there are times when I feel so guilty. And I'm like, wait a minute, why do I feel guilty? Because I'm sitting by the river just watching the water go by. Nothing fancy, just watching the water go by. But there is a lot in watching the water go by. Where before, when I sat by the river, it was, oh, I'm regenerating, I'm this, and I have such a short time to enjoy this hour by the river. And now that I'm retired and I have plenty of time to go there, it's a different reference. You know, so the things that we do, find time to go sit by the river. When you're busy, find time. There's something about the peacefulness of it, and that you realize that all things are there. You know, now when I sit by the river, I don't have to hurry home because I've got a project or something, or I got to go to work the next day, or it's a difference, right?
Yeah.
So, but when you go to and you know, the river can be anything. It can be whatever you enjoy. If you enjoy painting, okay. If you, whatever that is, if you spend an hour playing music or whatever, that's the river. That's, go to that place and enjoy it. Because if you don't take the time, you might not make it to the end where you got plenty of time to enjoy it. Because you should enjoy it along the way, not wait till the end.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, you know, I spent a lot of my younger years riding horse and having fun, and you know, taking out trail rides and breaking horses and trimming horses and doing all that. And I am so glad that I did that, because you know, everybody, when I was younger, I had this job. It was a good job. My dad worked at this place, and they kept telling me, my mom and my dad told me, you know, get this job and work there, and you'll retire someday, and then you can do all those things that you want to do. Right. And I was like, okay, so then when I retire and I'm, you know, 65, I can go break horses and ride. And then I'm like, I'm looking at the people that I know at this time that are 65. And I'm like, they can't even ride. They're too old. They don't even get on a horse. They're kind of afraid of the horses because they might get hurt. Well, I did a lot of self-thinking at that point, and I quit my job, and I went and rode those horses, and I did the farming, and I wrestled those cows, and I planted those crops and pounded those fence posts, and I had the best years of my life. And I wasn't rich, but those were the best years. And now that I have a good job, I don't do any of that stuff. I have a hard time getting time enough to go ride my horse once in a while. And the only time I got very little time, and the time I do have, I do my show, which I enjoy spending time with all of yous, but I work, most of my time is spent working. And there you go.
And yeah, the enjoyment of that is just not the same.
No. Yeah.
I agree with you, but, and there are some folks that I have known that have taken time in their early life, you know, to do exactly that. You know, some might say I spent too much of my time doing that kind of thing, but I always had a regular job, but I also, you know, would go on adventures. I'd save my money and go to the mountains and North Georgia and Carolinas and up in there. I mean, every 2 months I was up there for a long weekend. I was always planning on the next trip to the mountains and where I was going to go and what I was going to explore, and the fact that I, you know, had learned how to pan for minerals and gold and stuff like that, and somewhere I probably still have a couple of gold pans, but anyway, they will rust, by the way. But the idea that I would be able to do that at my age, well, I can barely leave the property right now. So waiting until I retired, I'd have missed out on a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been able to walk the trails. I wouldn't have been able to climb some of the waterfalls and places where I went back up in the back country the way I did. But I can remember them, and I still have vivid memories of certain trails and different places. I mean, I got caught by a bunch of trail riding horseback riders out in the middle of a stream taking a bath naked as a jaybird one morning. And around this hill, I'm thinking, I'm way up the side of this mountain. There ain't nobody here. And there's like 10 horses that go by. So I'm just standing in the creek, naked as a jaybird, just waving at them, Hi, y'all. Good morning to you. Holy crap. I'm naked as a jaybird in the middle of the street. That must have been funny by them people coming around the corner and seeing a naked white man in the middle of the street.
But see, those are the things, like I said, it may have been an embarrassing memory, but you wouldn't have had that memory if you would have just kept working. I gotta keep working. I gotta make more money. I gotta keep working. I can't have off. I gotta go to work, and well, it's the weekend. I gotta get stuff done around the house. I don't have time. But then, you're gonna look back and say, well, what are your best times of your life? Well, you're retired now. Go do those fun things. And you go, but I'm too old. My back hurts. My legs hurt. I can't walk. This, that, and the other. Now you're lucky you can get down by the river and watch the water go by.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. And and I look at that too a lot of times. And I think I'm working so much now. And yeah, I'm making money, but I should be really living life. I really need to make time to live life, or maybe I need to quit my job and, do something different that I really enjoy and I can have good memories, and I can go back to work some other day. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm torn because right now I feel like all I do is work. Desert Rose says, well, they ain't taking my memories. And she says, she lives in a small cabin, left the big house behind and feels freeing. Scotty Boy said he had his electric turned off 10 years ago. Best time of his life. Let's see. Oh, there was another one here.
There is something to living the simple life, but you got to commit to it. You can't just like, oh, I'm going to go live the simple life. If you're used to a bunch of appliances and all these other things, not to say you can't do it, but to live a simple life is a commitment.
Yes. Well, and there's another thing too. If you are well off, it's harder to go backwards than it is to go forwards, because it was a lot easier when I was poor and broke to have a few bucks and have a good time. And now that I got a few bucks, it would be really hard to live on. Like, I got a buddy that lives in Illinois. He don't make much, but if I had his paycheck, I don't know if I could pay the bills. I don't know what I'd do. I don't know how I'd eat or live or put gas in my vehicle. I gotta hand it to him, But anyway, so I don't know how people do it when they don't have any money or very little of it. They're real good budgeters, living on nothing, trying to make the best of it.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes, if it weren't for those times, I was going through some quote memorabilia, old bills and stuff, going through things that I'd saved. And I remember a time when I made $250 in a month. That paid my electric, gas, and now I was broke. I was eating out of the garbage from the local Winn-Dixie store and stuff, but I had figured out how to do it. I had fresh vegetables. I had all of my needs were met one way or the other. I didn't have any money, but my needs were met.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to have money to pay the electric bill, which got shut off a time or two. But you know, the reconnect fee is what burnt you. But anyway, so, but the simple life, you know, being able to look out your back door, being able to just take a walk or, you know, find a place, or whether it's the mountains or the somewhere, you find someplace special and you go there for, you know, you're communing with nature. So, but anyway, but the story tonight about the Hopi boy that went to look for his father, the thing at the end was that after all that he had been through and those folks that he thought he was helping, was he really eating the Navajo when he thought it was the wheat or the Apache? I can't remember, but anyway, in the story, but that no matter whether or not you're friends with your neighboring tribe, everybody should learn how to act right. And I find that two sentences at the end of the story, like, no matter who you are, you need to learn how to act right.
That's right.
Period.
Yeah.
And there are some folks that no matter how rich you are, they need to learn how to act right. No matter how poor you are, you need to learn how to act right. I mean, there's just, you know, and they're so simple. We don't need any rules. It's just correct morality, correct manners, and just being polite to one another and being kind, you know. But anyway,
I sure do agree with that.
Well, we're long in the tooth, brother.
Well, yep, 2 hours, and we're almost at 2 hours. So let's finish her up. Anyway, thank you for coming. You gonna have a show after this?
Maybe. My computer, I can't see you. I've got a blank screen.
Oh,
the only reason I can tell my camera light is on. So
okay,
the
I have to reboot.
Rebooted before I came on, but I'm obviously having issues because I can't get a screen to work or anything. So I'm gonna have to find out I might have to reboot.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and another great show. Thank you for everybody in the chat room. Off the Hook, Scotty Boy, Desert Rose, who says grandma's geese would chase me into an electric fence. She had knocked me plumb out. Oh boy, those geese are kind of mean. Lucky Smith, thank you for joining me and Lucky Smith. We're going to have a great couple shows this week, I think starting tomorrow night. So check that out. Everybody else who is Michelle Can-Am Free who joined us, thank you. Much love. Susie Q and Pod Joe, Big Al who stopped in, Max G. Thank you all for coming. Go out, you know, do something nice for somebody, even a smile or wave at the neighbor. You know, they need a day too when they know you're their neighbor and you're not an enemy. And someday that'll be very important. So go out and have a great day. Just remember, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks, David. And we will be back next week. Peace, everybody.
Love.